And that's also how our three products came about. So we have three product categories: the silicon production, the cell production, and then finally the solar panel fabrication.
Today, I have the pleasure to welcome in the studio Joost van Oorschot. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Joost and his team made big headlines because you might have heard from Maana, his company, who already secured 100 million euros of contracts. So let's go straight into it. Tell us a little bit about Maana.
Yes, so Maana, we are about 5 years old as a company. We are, of course, a startup. So we were created basically based on the dream of producing solar panels one day on the moon. The founders, we all come from the space industry originally, but very quickly realized that's very expensive and we don't have the budgets of an Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos to do this. So we needed to figure out very quickly a business model that made sense quicker. So the technologies that we were looking at, we decided why not apply these technologies for Earth? And with that, we got the attention here in Luxembourg from the Luxembourg Space Agency. They were very interested in what we were doing. And yes, time flies. And now 5 years later, we have a quite successful company. We are commercializing our products and having commercial traction as well. So.
Yeah, so I think we can go back a little bit. So before 2018, you already created two companies in Holland, in the Netherlands. And then you decided to go back to study to Strasbourg.
Yeah.
And that's where basically the magic happened, because at the time we all remember Etienne Schneider with his ideas to, you know, do the extraction of coal, for example, on the moon. And that's where the Luxembourg Space Agency and you connected. And I think what's very important is they allowed you to get quite quickly some contract with ESA. Is that right? The European Space Agency.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so look, in the space industry, how it works is that usually you get contracts, tendering for contracts to develop technologies. The Luxembourg Space Agency helped us to secure some of these first contracts, and that really allowed us to get the ball rolling, because as you can imagine, we are very much a hardware company, deep tech company, so it requires a lot of funding to develop a technology, not millions, but tens of millions of euros, as you can imagine. So it's important to try and get some of your product development going without right away needing external investors, because external investors, of course, only see the risk and they don't see the upside. Now, 5 years later, we've really developed a lot of our core technologies and are in a much better position to enter the market, let's say. But yes, that's how it started. And at the time that I was in university with my co-founders, I really wanted to get into this space resources field. It's what my research was in, and of course then with the terrestrial focus in mind. And like a match made in heaven, Luxembourg came with their big announcement of Space Resources Initiative, and yes, we started talking and it was a clear fit. So this is how we came to Luxembourg.
Well, what I think also is great is you've got this crazy vision, Elon Musk style. I think if I followed you properly, is you would like to create the technology that allows you to create solar panels, to create them out of basically the dust from the moon.
Exactly.
It's a fabulous vision, of course, but as you said, you need to be sustainable. So I think right now you've got 3 lines of services. Can we go through the 3 products that you're actively selling? Let's start with the one that got you this contract of 100 million euro.
Yeah, sure. Let me maybe rewind. So just to understand what goes into a solar panel, the typical production process is you take very high purity sand, you turn this into silicon, the silicon you turn into solar cells, and the solar cells you turn into panels. And that's done across a whole value chain with dozens of companies involved to go from the raw material to the panel. So our vision was to put that all into one company and do it all. And that's also how our 3 products came about. So we have 3 product categories: the silicon production, the cell production, and then finally the solar panel fabrication. And the product line that's now really very popular, let's say, is our automated solar panel manufacturing line, which is basically, we call it the Terra Box. And basically this is a containerized system, so 2 shipping containers, and it can produce 35 megawatts. I don't know if you know what that means.
Not
but
really. A village?
Let's call it, no, it's a lot. It's a lot of power. So It's, let's call it 300 solar panels a day. So enough to power 100 homes a day, you could imagine.
That's a lot, yes.
Especially if we look at the target markets, which is more Middle East and Africa, where the power consumption is a bit lower. Yes, and it's a very popular product because we really offer it as a all-in-one solution. So our customers lease the machine from us, we provide the training, we provide all the consumables that they need to produce solar panels, because our customers don't need to have the expertise on how to manufacture the solar panels. They usually have already the customer base for the solar panels. They already are installing these solar panels, and we just offer them a route to capture more of the value chain, let's say.
Very good. So this is really your flagship product right now, because
Yes.
you can accept orders, you already do.
Yes.
You produce, that makes you sustainable, and you can keep on sustaining the dream of doing it on the moon. If we go back to silicon, how do you create silicon?
Yeah, you have to imagine that sand is typically made of many minerals, but the majority of it is made of silicon, minerals containing silicon. So in particular, sand here on Earth is made of quartz, which is the mineral, which is silicon dioxide. So it has silicon and 2 oxygen atoms. And what we do is we separate the oxygen from the silicon. Industrially, this is done with a lot of carbon, because basically you emit CO2 and you are left with the silicon, and we have a quite novel process to basically allow us to extract the silicon whilst not touching the other minerals that you typically have in the sand. So it's a much more efficient process.
And that's a product, that a service that you do in a centralized way, and then you could deliver the silicon to your clients.
It's more, yeah, so our silicon production, it's really envisioned to be at huge scale. We are now doing it in our facility on kilogram scale a day, going to tens of kilograms a day, and our vision is really to go to several tons a day and address that market. And basically the emissions from our process are like 6 times less than the industrial way, so really helping to improve the way that we are producing silicon, and we can also do it with quite a nice profit margin, which is of course important.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's on the silicon, and then we can also use our silicon to produce our own solar cells. So we have the silicon business, we have our cells business, and then what is really now flying off the shelf, so to say, is the panel manufacturing. And our vision for the next couple of years is to have all those 3 product lines working together, let's say, to make a solid long-term business. And of course, we really consider it a 2 birds, 1 stone, because this technology that we've developed for terrestrial applications, it can also then be used for in space to produce solar panels on the moon whenever Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or astronauts go to the moon, and we will be there to provide power for them.
I think it's more likely it's going to be first Elon Musk and later Bezos.
We will see, who knows?
Exactly. So let's talk about competition, because it's nice to be a Luxembourg champion. I hope you will become a European champion, but for a guy like me who doesn't have any idea, for me the overwhelming giant in solar panels right now is China.
Yeah.
How do you compete against China?
Look, I think if you try to do exactly what the Chinese do, but you try and do it in Europe, you will never win.
Of course.
So you have to do something different, and that's really our approach. So our machines are meant to make it as easy as possible to manufacture locally. We know that there is some, let's say, interest in the market for locally manufactured panels. We see here in Europe that people are willing to pay 10, 15% more for panels made in Luxembourg, made in France, and so forth. So that's an important factor. The reactivity as well, of course. But really our goal is to be flexible, to offer a flexible system. We can rapidly set up a solar panel manufacturing, but we can also rapidly redeploy that solar panel manufacturing capability. And as such, we can compete with Chinese solutions, which are much more one size fits all, let's say.
Okay, so if I look at the 3 main factors, price, of course, the ecologic footprint,
of course,
and then scalability. Can you compete on price?
On price, yes. We can be on par, let's say.
Which is very surprising to me, but it's feasible because of your technology.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the green side, I would imagine you're better.
Yes, we are much cleaner. Also, our panels are fully recyclable, so that's also a big gain. And especially now, we see a big trend here in Europe where we are looking more at these aspects. You have to understand that in most of the solar panels that people have on their rooftop, there's forced labor used in the supply chain. So a lot of the silicon that's used for the solar panels is produced in the west of China, where, as we know, there is some geopolitical tension, let's say. So part of that, really Europe is looking at this as, okay, something needs to change and we need to start localizing more and more of the production. We cannot depend on just one player producing 90% of the global capacity of solar panels, because somehow we have been kidnapped by China in this sense, in only relying on production from China. And if, God forbid, something like COVID happens again, we saw a huge pressure on the market when this happened, because frankly, the factories were not producing.
Yeah, or just an economic war. We know that the West is preventing China from accessing a lot of Western technology. They could also say, we just cut you access, for example, to solar panels, and we feed our domestic market first.
Look, I think we live in a globalized society, and I hope that we can all work together. This is not always guaranteed. We work with a lot of Chinese suppliers as well, and I think there's a win-win case, but of course we have to be careful that not everything is relying on one source. Even for China, it's in their benefit that there is supply coming from other places.
Exactly. A last question about the scale. I guess this is a limit you face against China, so it takes us to another dimension of Luxembourg. We have some private equity players, some VCs. Are you planning to scale production, or is it far too early?
So right now we are in the moment of scaling production. In the next year, we really want to roll out more and more machines. Our plan is to have a factory up and running sometime next year where we can produce 6 of these machines a month, and then we really go in a good direction.
And you're going to do this based on your sales, so in an organic financing, or are you planning to raise money to scale? And
we are raising funding at the moment, but yeah, somehow we have a good problem. We have more orders than we can deliver.
Absolutely.
So right now, with our current production capabilities, we have a 2-year pipeline, let's say. So that's a very good situation to be in, but we of course want to grow and scale the business, and naturally that requires private equity.
Perfect. Well, Joost, congratulations. Good luck for the future, and thank you for making the Luxembourg economy stronger.
Of course. Thank you.